things that he would like to say to everyone as a business owner to kind of know what's going on with the city. After he is finished, then I would like to go around the room and everyone kind of introduce yourself, and then we'll get into the questions. So at this time, I'd like to welcome Mayor Jimmy Faircloth.
Y'all are too kind. First thing I want to do is thank you for your interest. Scott and I have talked about this before. When I saw the article that came out in the paper, I had a lot of people calling me and all and wanting to know what I thought of it. And I said, well, the first thing I think is that I am very glad that people care enough to get involved. And I've said that before. The fact that you care enough to get involved is important. Now, that involvement's up to you. And I would wholeheartedly encourage every one of you to continue your involvement through one way or another. I admire this group and Scott for taking on some issues that they see that there's a need. One of the things I encouraged him to do is to make sure that you get informed on the various groups that are already out and see what they do. Go to them and ask them, attend their meetings, and find out what they do and why, how they're funded, and what each one of them does that might be able to help y'all in whatever endeavor you want, because it'll be a lot cheaper on y'all to tag on to what somebody else is doing if it's one of your goals from that standpoint. But the only way to know that is to inform yourselves. The second thing I'd encourage you to do is to stay involved again. It doesn't make any sense to reinvent the wheel. There are several things that are going on that y'all may or may not know about. I just wanted you to be aware of. When I took office 2 years ago, one of the first things that I noticed was the city of Perry has something called a hotel-motel tax that they already knew about. But a portion of those proceeds are used for literally whatever the city wants to do, but primarily we've elected to use all of it for the promotion of Perry. Now, we're legally obligated to use a portion of that, and that's what's funding the Convention and Visitors Bureau Authority. Totally. That's what they operate on. The balance of that money we spread out over several different agencies. One of the things that we noticed was, as mayor and council, was that those agencies didn't know what each other were doing. So I started something called an economic strategies group. And we hadn't met in a couple of months, but even so, I asked the chairmen of the board or the presidents or the executive directors, whoever was involved in the leadership positions of each one of those agencies. And those agencies essentially are the 21st Century Partnership Group, the Airport Authority, the Convention and Visitors Bureau Authority, the Chamber of Commerce, the Downtown Development Authority, directly, and then the Agri Center indirectly, and literally in the Merchants Association and the Ministerial Association. Anybody else that wanted to come from that standpoint. And the main thing I wanted to do was to make sure that the left hand knew what the right hand was doing. And there were some people in that group alone didn't know what impact that airport has, or the fact that they had your pig thing that you have, the flying, your pig thing. What is it?
Pig cook-off, pig and wings cook-off.
Pig and wings cook-off. A great event. They didn't even know it existed from that standpoint, and that's exactly the point that I was trying to make. From that, council decided that it was so important that I appointed 2 council members to go around to actually those agencies and other business owners to determine exactly what they thought of economic development, if you will, from that standpoint. Not just in the downtown area, but as Perry as a whole. And they did that. And what was painfully obvious to us was that we had nobody at the city level coordinating any of those efforts for this entire city. We had some agencies doing it here, we had some agencies doing part of it here, but again, the left hand never knew what the right hand was doing. Well, that's not real efficient. And I know governments are never efficient, but that was even more than we could take. So what we did was decided to create another department head level job within the city called an Economic Development Coordinator. You may have seen an advertisement for that. We had 57 people apply for it. We narrowed the field down to 14 and interviewed those 14 people. Then we narrowed that down to 3 people, and the entire council interviewed those 3 people. We have made an offer to a person here, and we are waiting for them to come back with us. We're pretty sure they're going to accept, but they wanted an opportunity to talk to their employer first, and you'll be seeing an announcement for that. What this person's main job is to coordinate the efforts for economic development. Now, why we call it that is very simple, because that's the source of the funding for their salary in the city, from the economic development proceeds, which is a portion of the hotel motel tax. Nothing more. Now, I stepped on some toes doing that with the Houston County Development Authority and Chairman Stallnacher, that they all got upset when we announced that we were going to do that, because they currently have a plan in place and an organization in place that does economic development, and they do a good job. It's Morgan Law, he's the executive director, and the Houston County Development Authority. Years ago, the chambers used to do that, and the state of Georgia economic development people came to us and said, okay, we can't have 3 different people to call down here when we have a prospect that wants to come. We need one person. So that's why that was organized a long time ago. And that's why that one organization is charged with doing economic development for Houston County that includes all 3 municipalities. They have 3 people that work there. One of those young ladies is charged with existing industries and making sure the existing industries have what they need and talking to them and stuff like that. Well, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that there is absolutely no way that one person, no matter who it is, can take care of existing industry in the county, much less the city of Perry, the city of Centerville, or the city of Warner Robins, and the unincorporated areas of the county. And they do a good job. I'm not throwing stones at all. So that was one of the things that we entered into our decision to have an economic development coordinator, and that's one of the things that this person's going to do. In addition to coordinating the efforts of all of this, they are going to be charged with being the face and the contact for existing industry and businesses in Perry. That includes the downtown area, but it's a Perry-wide function. They will also be the face of Perry when we have prospects come in. The chamber does a portion of that as well. The chamber has an organization that has history, that has information, statistics, and they do a good job of providing that. And we will use that. This person will not only talk with them, they'll talk with the Convention and Visitors Bureau Authority, the Airport Authority, all of those different agencies that I talked about, plus some, in order to determine what it is or where it is we need to go. We have vacancies, not only on this street, but we have vacancies all over Perry. And I've had our development, community development people has, and if you didn't know it, you're welcome to get a copy of it. A year and a half to 2 years ago, we asked him to do a survey of the entire city on vacancies and where they were located and to keep track of it. Well, he's updated that after a year, so there's 2 reports for that. You need to get a copy of that if you're interested, because what concerned us was a year ago, there were more vacancies down this street than there were businesses, for the most part. Well, that's not true today, and I'm not taking credit for that, because activity tends to breed activity, and a lot of people have a lot of different interests in trying to fill up these businesses. But if you look at the city as a whole, the same thing was true in other strip centers. And what we found out in the initial survey was that the rate of unoccupied properties was not out of line, and it's still not. In fact, it's getting better from that standpoint, compared to other cities our size and then each other from that standpoint. Because even though the reason it looks so bad in the downtown area, if you segregate a certain section and it's got 10 things in it and 6 of them are vacant, that's bad. But if you look at the whole town, it's not. Does that make sense? So this is one of the things that we charged our community development people with tracking, and this is going to be one of the things that this new person is going to follow as well. Not only will this person be charged with existing industries, they are also going to be charged with soliciting small businesses and industry. Now, I'm not talking about the big boxes. I'm not competing with the Houston County Development Authority. They're looking for the big stuff. We want the small stuff. There's this is statistically proven the #1 place that you will find jobs created in America, not just in the city of Perry, in the state of Georgia, is existing industry and small businesses. They're the ones that are the backbone of this country. They're the ones that we need. I would much rather recruit 10 small businesses than 1 big one for the same amount, for obvious reasons. If you spread that risk, if you will, over 10 people, the chances of those 10 people being in business in 5 years are a lot greater than that one, depending on the type of business that it is. that makes any sense. So that's the type of things that we're working on. And you may have heard me say, people ask me what I like least about my job as mayor, and the number one thing is the speed of government, or the lack of. It is so frustrating that it takes so long to get things done. We've been working on this for 2 years, and we're just now getting to the point that we're going to have a position in place. It's a department head position, so that's how much we think is important for the economic development of the city of Perry, and that we created in order to move this town to the next level. You're going to start seeing some results of that, and you're going to start seeing this person, hopefully, in your businesses. And if you don't, I want to know about it, because that means they're not, it'll take them a while to get around, but the plan is in place, is my only point. Another thing I wanted to mention is that we do have some efforts underway that will help not only in the trash pickup stuff, but we try real hard, especially right before the fair, to keep the town clean and all that, but I do appreciate your efforts in doing that. We have people call the city all the time, I'm going to have some people come over and clean up this neighborhood, but I don't know what to do with the trash. We'll take them 8 or 10 trash cans. Friday, or Thursday or Friday, and we'll come back and get them in. If y'all want to do that, let us know. Just call the city and we'll take you this stuff. Or tell us where you're going to pile it, we're going to pick it up. We're here to help you. And that's the main thing I wanted to tell you. My door is always open. I'll be glad to meet with you. I don't have regular office hours over there because I'm like y'all. I have a full-time job that I have to go to in order to pay my bills. It's not being mayor. I can promise you that. Although I enjoy it, it's got its moments from that standpoint. But I would be glad to meet with anybody at any time, 7 days a week, almost at any time during the day that you want to. If you have an issue you want to talk to me about, I will do that. I've done it from the time I've been there, and so will any other member of council. And you don't have to live in their district for them to be willing to meet with you either, from that standpoint. We have a very open door policy. We work very well together. We don't always agree. And that's the next thing I wanted to tell you. Whoever you got that wants to come, and I encourage you all to come to the city council meetings. You're going to get bored out of your mind, but if you want to come, please do. But we have to meet by law on the first and third Tuesdays, and that's because of our enacting legislation. We created a work session that's on the first and third Mondays, the night before. The discussions and the arguments, if you will, or whatever it is that we have to hash things out, come in the work sessions every single time. They last anywhere from rarely an hour, but usually an hour and a half to 2.5 hours, depending on what's on the agenda. And anything can be on the agenda, and all of these meetings are open to the public. You don't have to call and tell us you're coming, just show up. The work sessions are upstairs on the second floor, and by the time something gets to an official city council meeting, if you've been to them or watch them on TV, you will see that most of the votes that we have are unanimous, and they're all positive. Well, that looks like we're just ramrodding things through. That couldn't be further from the truth, because by the time it gets to that point, we've done all the hashing in several meetings past. Now, we may not agree going in, but we will reach a consensus coming out, and we're all on board, whether we technically agree with it or not, if that makes any sense. And the reason this works so well, and I hope it'll continue, is because of communication. I try to keep our council informed, as well as the department heads, of what's going on that I hear, and they do the same thing with me from the community. That's real important, and that's just as important for y'all. There's nothing we do behind closed doors that you can't know about. In fact, we don't even have closed doors. There are only 3 reasons we can go into a closed session. One of them is to talk about litigation, another is for personnel issues, and the third one, what's the third one?
I think we hang them all.
Real estate.
Real estate. Thank you. That's right. Thank you. And we do it. You may see us do it every now and then, but it doesn't last long. But know this: we cannot vote on anything in a closed session, no matter what it is. We have to take votes in the public session every time. So my point is that nothing really in the city, nothing happens that you can't come and watch if you want to, or get the minutes for. You can call the city or go to the city website and put your email address in there, and we will email you the agendas for every meeting we have, and then once we have it, we will email you the minutes